Hey, what's up everyone, Foxy here, and today I'm going to give you the TLDR of PoE's new secrets of the Atlas expansion. Having only had a year to blast Settle into Kalgor, I'm sure you're all still too busy to read the patch notes, so I'm going to give you the summary. So let's jump straight in with the key change everyone's been waiting for. They've adjusted the banana size to more closely match the Kalgoran version, and they've moved a lamppost in King's March. So with those crucial updates out of the way, let's get into what the actual expansion is. In the new expansion, Sana has returned and her daddy issues have come to fruition. For those who don't know, in the last episode of Dragon Ball Z, Sana helped us defeat her dad, also known as the pinnacle boss, the Shaper, and then promptly disappeared. We now have to find her, which introduces the new Endgame Mechanic. This new Endgame Mechanic is going to be added to the core of PoE and is an addition to the Atlas. It will have three main mechanics. One is influence maps that have special modifiers. Within those maps, you'll have special abilities, and these maps will also drop new item modifiers called strands. So while playing the Atlas, you'll uncover these threads that open portals to unique maps. Within these maps, you'll gain the petals, you'll use the special abilities, and those special abilities sound awesome. One of the examples they gave is you basically get to kill all the mobs twice, effectively doubling your loot and doubling your experience, and this is going to be amazing for juicing. And these powers can stack later on in the game. Additionally, at the end of these maps, you'll get an altar, which will give you the option of 2 influences for the next map. And again, these chain up. Once you go down the chain of the thread, you'll eventually fight a warped memory of Sana's, which will be a kind of alternate version of a boss you've seen in PoE. And then eventually you'll go on to the pinnacle boss of Cirrus. Once you kill these bosses, they'll drop map fragments that allow you to then fight 3 new pinnacle bosses, which are completely new to the game and have their own rare uniques that only drop from them. And these also look like some really pretty impressive uniques as well, so I'm looking forward to that. Finally, items can drop with memory strands within these maps up to 100. And basically what these allow you to do is when you identify or craft on them, they'll use up the strands, and in exchange will give you a much higher chance of better rolls and better tiers of those rolls. There's also 3 additional crafting items, the Orb of Remembrance, which adds more strands to the gear, Orb of Unraveling, that uses up those strands to boost mods on an item, and the Orb of Intention, which can be used on maps to reduce the drops, but of the drops you do get, they're more likely to have strands on them for crafting and identifying. Additionally, the Atlas tree has also been updated to add ways of target farming this endgame content. And it's worth noting that they mentioned that some of the modifiers on these juiced influence maps will have tier 17 mods on them, making them effectively 16.5 tier map, and that's going to be really, really good for juicing. So next we move on to the new league mechanic, the Mercenaries of Traffus. These can be thought of as rogue exiles for hire with their own archetypes and gear. And Mark said behind the scenes, they're actually going to have sort of an inbuilt passive skill tree that's going to level up. So the later in the game you find them, the better they're probably going to be, but they don't level up as you'd normally think. There's basically 3 options when you meet a mercenary. One, you pay them a gold to be your escort. Not that kind of escort, but basically a mercenary for hire. You can switch out their gear, which is pretty cool. And also, even if they suck more than a vacuum, blasters will want to bring them along because they basically increase your loot because they count as half a player. So that's pretty good. You can have 1 to accompany you at any one time, and you can have 2 back at your base. And if they die, you simply lose them from the map, and then you've got to pay their Medicare to bring them out for another outing using gold. If you think the mercs are just so bad that you don't even want them, you can also pick one of their items. And we've been told that they've got brand new uniques specific to mercs that you can only get from these mercs, so they're worth having a look. And we've been told that the rare items will be things that players want. But Path of Exile 2, Rogue Exiles, I still have to see it to believe it, but hopefully they will be good gear. And if the gear's rubbish, you can instead take their coin purse, which will have various currencies in it. Additionally, there's a subset of mercenaries that are even rarer called the Death Trade families, which have 4 factions that provide rarer gear than the other mercenaries, as well as infamous modifiers, which are new modifiers you can find on gear, as well as brand new skill gems that are unique to this new mercenary mechanic. Finally, if you really don't like their gear and you don't want them following you around, you can tell them to do one and they won't appear for a number of encounters. Next, we have the Settlers of Kalgor going core. So just in case the year wasn't enough, King's March is back, guys, but don't worry, we no longer have to build the town. It's done. They've finally finished. Shipping remains, and you can still grow crops and mine ore to send ships off for loot. However, they mentioned that this shipping will be a bit slower than it was before to make it less kind of obligatory, but it will give you items that you cannot find anywhere else, such as tattoos, which replace your passive skills, and rune crafting runes, which allow you to replace a mastery skill with their associated bonus. And some of these look really, really strong, so you're probably going to want to look at these. Currency exchange is here to stay, thank the Lord. And also we've got a new recombinator. So basically we have 2 versions of recombinator now. We've got the old version that you're used to in PoE, and they brought in another version and you can use them side by side. And the new version allows you to basically select the mods that you want to try and combine. They'll give you a percentage chance of success, but they have a chance of destroying your gear, whereas the other one is more unpredictable, but you don't lose your gear. And I think the old version is kind of better for really high level crafting really, and that's why they've kept it in. There's also a number of new nodes and scarabs that help you specialize in finding these resources, and they've done a similar thing for the Endgame expansion as well. Basically anything they're adding, they're giving you new scarabs and new nodes in the Atlas tree to kind of target farm that stuff. And of course the aforementioned banana change in size and the moving the lamppost, super important, they've done that as well. Next, Betrayal was reworked. The boss originally had more iframes than a hacked Elden Ring game, but now has a lot less. Basically you can kill her now, which is great, and upon killing her your syndicate board no longer gets reset. Instead you can farm her using a currency called the Syndicate Medallion Fragment that allows you to teleport to her and basically do that bit without resetting your board. She's also got unique items that will have, they're not new, but they have additional unveiled modifiers that are exclusive to her uniques. And she can also drop all flame embers, which are from Necropolis League, which you can slot into your map alongside scarabs or instead of scarabs, like you could do in the Necropolis League. Because the board doesn't reset, it's now slower to get intelligence and fill that board, but they've reworked the rewards to hopefully making that feel better. Jung can now hop on her bike, as we can now unveil the items all by ourselves without her. We don't need to do that boring clicking thing. And if you absolutely hate Betrayal, you'll be pleased to hear that you can now unlock the unveiled recipes. Just by mapping, you'll find them near bosses. Finally, an old favourite returns with the Veiled Chaos Orb that allows you to reroll modifiers and guarantee a Veiled modifier included in it. So all very exciting. I love Betrayal. I'm very pleased with these changes. Finally, we get on to some endgame changes and honourable mentions that didn't really fit anywhere else. One of the key ones is you no longer lose or gain experience when you're fighting some endgame bosses. If you're thinking like Shaper, Elder, Maven, those sort of guys, you won't lose any experience, but you also won't gain any. That's a big change because it stopped you kind of wanting to attempt them. The old Atlas memory system that like 5 people used to use, and there was only like 1 good memory, that's gone now, and they've given it over to Kirak, so Kirak can sometimes roll those memories. Breach splinters can now be sucked up in a single stack at the end of your breach. Great quality of life. You can also re-roll the Guardian and Conquer maps to different influences with the Orb of Horizons. All 6 influence types, including Shaper and Elder, now drop their own special Exalted Orbs that allow you to add a modifier from their influence using their particular Exalted Orb, which is really cool. Skill gem balances, I'm not going to go through them all. There's a huge amount. But in short, Gazzy's going to be happy because a load of minion buffs are in there. And finally, the Animate Guardian will not lose all its gear when it dies. Instead, it works like the Mercenary, and you can resummon him after combat. Well, outside the map, I should say. There's been some Ascendancy changes as well. They're affecting Berserker, Champion, Guardian, Hierophant, Trickster, and Elementalist. I'd have a look if that interests you. They've kind of included a few things from the Frisia League. There's also been a tweak to a small number of the nodes in the skill tree, some unique, some items, and some div cards. But again, won't go into detail, otherwise this will not be a TLDR. And no one wants to hear me read out stat lines. Also, there's been some tweaking to Kirak's League mods, making them generally more powerful, but costing a little bit more. And then finally, we've got some interface changes. Basically, vendors will remember your previous searches for that play session. Your map device now has a secret prison pocket that allows you to hold more maps and map items alongside the map device, which is pretty awesome. You can also use your currency in your inventory on strong boxes, allowing you to basically use strong boxes quicker. You can pause the game, which is amazing. And finally, WASD is enabled in PoE 2. Sorry, had to do it. So to recap, we have a new expansion adding to the core in-game loop. We have Friends for Hire as the new League mechanic. We have a rework of Batman's detective agency in the form of Betrayal, a finished King's March, and a ton of quality of life and skill tree, passive tree tweaks, which I have hopefully done justice to in this summary. If you enjoyed this recap, feel free to chuck me a like or subscribe, and if you think I missed any key bits, feel free to share them in the comments below and share your knowledge with everyone. Hopefully this has been useful. I don't have an outro. I'm still rambling as always, so I'm going to go now. Bye. Love the banana change. Huge change.